Today on Independent Wrestling Profiles, we're talking with joyful Jae-Lynn Hill. When did you first get introduced to professional wrestling?
I was 2013. 2013, SummerSlam, John Cena versus Daniel Bryan. First match I ever watched. My dad is a big wrestling fan. I don't know why I decided, because I watched it with him. And then I went home to my mom's. And then when I went back, I was talking about wrestling. Nikki Bella, Brie Bella, AJ Lee. My dad was like, what the heck? Like, you've never watched it. Like, how do you know these people? And I was like, oh, I looked them up. Like, I was watching it. Like, I love it. And then ever since then, we've always bonded over that and watched it together. And I just love it. I don't know why I decided to look it up or like why I continued loving it. I think it's because you hear about like soccer, football, even like school sports. Wrestling was never talked about. So I feel like I was just like never introduced to it. So I wanted to learn more about it. But like watching it, I was like, whoa, like I didn't even know this was a thing.
Was there any part of it when you saw it that really appealed to you? Was it the in-ring action? Was it the characters? Was it just kind of like the spectacle and the grandeur of it all? I know that's a little bit hard to pinpoint, but was there some element when you sat down and watched that SummerSlam that you were like, okay, this is what I'm in for?
Yeah, I think it was just the atmosphere. Like it was like everyone comes together and just loves this so much. And there's like this bad guy, this good guy. And it's like, what do you relate to in a way? Or I feel like it gave me a sense of comfort because I got bullied a lot in elementary school. So I feel like it was something that you can relate to a character and you're like, this is so cool.
So as you transition into becoming a bit more of a regular fan, you've now discovered it. Perhaps you're watching it on a bit of a weekly basis. Are there any particular performers that are becoming kind of top tier for you that are really appealing to you or that maybe you relate to the most or just simply that you enjoyed?
Kylie Rae. My first, the one that I loved the most was Sasha Banks. That's who got me into it. I loved watching her. She was just really good in the ring. Like her athleticism, everything. Love her. Bailey, she was the hugger. That's who I loved, just her happiness, her bubbliness, all that. Charlotte Flair, I would say now. She is just so good. She speaks her truth in the ring, and also you can tell that she's very confident in the way that she communicates. And I just love the confidence piece. Even if you have to fake it, I feel like it's very inspirational to watch someone be able to portray that in a way that she does.
Was it as early as these kind of first watchings, these first viewings, that spark kind of went into the back of your mind that like, maybe this is something I'd like to do? Or did that come along down the road?
No, I knew early on. I was like, I'm going to do this. My mom and dad would laugh at me. My dad was like, oh, great. And he would just giggle. And then my mom was like, what? Like, that's like, you, like, she's like, you love it so much. She would always say to me, it's just a phase. It's just a phase. And I was like, what the heck? And I would always watch it, like literally all of the time. I would get home from school, wrestling, everything. Coming from a small town, not that it's unreachable, but it seemed unrealistic. Not that people would tell me it's unrealistic, but just I didn't even think you could do it in Ontario. I didn't even know what the indie. I literally just watched WWE. I didn't even know NXT, nothing. I feel like I just thought it was an unrealistic thing. So I just wanted to learn more about it because you never hear about it.
Did you get a chance, even if it was just WWE, to go to a live event, whether it was a house show taping, not on film or anything, just a chance to feel the atmosphere rather than just see it?
Yes. I remember the first time I ever seen Sasha Banks, Alexa Bliss, Bailey live. It was like the most insane feeling. I can't explain it to people. Like when people ask me why I love wrestling, I literally can't explain it. Like the adrenaline it gives me, like I just get so excited. And it was the most amazing feeling.
The feeling of the crowd and the energy in the
Yeah.
room and things like that.
Like, it's just insane. Because then you don't, like, even on a daily basis, you don't come across people that just love wrestling. So then when you're there, like in Toronto, you're like looking around, you're like, this is insane. Like, you don't see these people on a regular basis, but then you come here and there's like so many.
So, talk to me a little bit about the trigger event. When was it that you actually went from thinking this is unattainable, this isn't something that exists in Ontario, to pursuing it as something that possibly could become a reality?
I asked my dad, we were watching WrestleMania, and I asked him, I was 17, I'm 20 right now, and I asked him if he could, sorry, no, I was like 13, 14, and I asked him if there was a place around here because I didn't know if there was. And then I remember that he looked it up and he messaged two places. One was Crossbody. I think the other one was Battle Arts. I could be wrong, but he heard back from Crossbody first. So then they told him that I had to be 17, I think. And then when I was 18, I remembered and I was like, oh my goodness, I can try this. Like, I'm just ending high school. I'm going into college. Like, let me give this a try. I played rugby throughout high school. I didn't have that in the summer. So I was like, I want to do something. And they reached out, and May 25th, 2022, I went to Crossbody. And that night I knew that I was doing it. I I literally I loved it so much. It was like you just do things that you never usually do. Like, who takes back bumps? Not soccer players. Like, it was just insane. And just the people too, the atmosphere, it was very welcoming. And yeah, I remember stepping into the ring for the first time and I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like, to think about how far you come. I step in there now and it's just like a thing you do. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm at training. It's like like the things you take for granted without actually realizing that you do.
That's awesome to hear that you knew immediately that this was something that you wanted to do. And take me through a little bit of the training. Was there any sort of hurdles along the way? Was there any sort of particular facets of the training that were just a little bit, oh, wow, this is going to take a bit to overcome or a little bit harder to work through? Like, yes, you know you want to do it, but what sort of challenges did you face along the way?
Yeah. Um Definitely there was this one spot that I couldn't get for the life of me and I don't know why. It just wouldn't click. And then one day it kind of just clicked and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then ever since then I kind of just got that. So it's cool to watch your own progress throughout that time. I would say the drive was far from where I'm from because I'm about 2 hours from where Crossbody is.
Oh, wow.
So because of the less responsibilities as an 18-year-old, it was not bad. Go to work and then drive there and then come home. Like, there was nothing else really. So that was fine. It was just kind of trying to be consistent with the drive. I feel like everybody at my age at that time just parties and stuff. So it was hard to be like social, but I didn't want to party. So it was hard to like agree to hang out or like go places on weekends when it's like, oh, I just like I want to wrestle, but I don't want wrestling to be my excuse not to hang out in a way, if that makes any sense.
No, I get it. I fully get it.
So it was hard in that sense because it was what I wanted to do. But then it was like people would say, but you don't have time for this, or like, oh, but this is when you should be doing this. So it was hard for like people to understand, especially when they don't know what professional wrestling is. And like being in high school, it was just very difficult towards the end for that sake. But
It seems like something you've been balancing for quite some time, and you're still doing it with, school, work, things like that. However, what I do want to know about is your reaction to when you were going to get booked for your first match. Take me through the lead up to it, maybe even your response to getting the news that it was going to happen. Share the first match experience with us.
I did not know that I was debuting. I remember May, I moved to Cambridge before my last year of college just so I could be more consistent. And I was 10 minutes away rather than 2 hours. So
Yep.
I was able to be more consistent. So I did not know that I was debuting. Ben had talked about it early May. He was like, oh, it would be great if we could get you a first match in before you go away in like August or something. But then it never, like, that was kind of it. And I was like, okay, like, I'm not the person that was like, oh, I really want a match. Oh, I want this. I want this. I want this. I was kind of just happy wrestling. I didn't really think about it. I was just always happy to be there. Like, same with now, just with school and everything, I guess. I'm kind of more just like, I just love when I get to train, when I can wrestle. Like, I'm never like, oh, but I want this. I want this. I want this. So I didn't really think about it a lot. And then I remember on one of the shows, he asked the students to come into the ring. And I remember looking behind me at someone and I was like, do I go up? Like, is that me? Like, I know I'm a student, but like, I don't go on the shows. And then they were like, yeah, that's you. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went up and I was like when I found that out, I was just shocked. I was not expecting it at all. And it was, I feel like I can't even explain my reaction because I was in shock. And it sounds very cliche, but I literally couldn't believe it. I feel like also for my first match, it was just something that I was not expecting.
So I know what you're referring to. I've seen the video, but for context, can you let people know what shocked you, what happened in the ring that day?
Yes. We're all standing there, and then Ben played this video, and it showed on July 28th that I was debuting with Kylie Rae as my tag team partner against Crystal Moon and Gabriel Fuerza, which is also insane, let me just say. The first female graduate of Crossbody, and she is doing amazing, a great inspiration for me. Gabriel Fuerza, literally insane. And Kylie Rae, my idol, my literal favorite wrestler. She's even more kind in person. She's like, I can't even describe her. This world doesn't deserve her. And I always say that, but it's true. Every day I wake up and I just hope she has a great day because I love her.
Yeah, I've seen that video on social media, I think on the Crossbody YouTube page, and it is phenomenal. And your reaction is so genuine. When you say you were in shock, I believe it because I could see it.
Literally, I didn't even know what to do because I couldn't even think. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this isn't real. Like, I've never even met her before. She's my favorite. Like, it was insane.
And this is exactly why I tell people when I talk about the wrestling industry, never say never. You have no idea what could happen. But that's just the announcement. The night has to come up. So tell me a little bit about it. I'm sure that there was probably a period of time before it set in and you were like, this is actually happening. But now you're in the locker room. Take me through that night.
Ben arrived with her and I was outside standing out there with my sister. And I remember seeing her in the car and I just started jumping up and down. I know that I was working with her in professionalism, but man, I'm still her biggest fan. So I had to run up to her. I gave her the biggest hug. I started crying and she was just so happy and it was just the best thing. Yeah, I remember we went in, we planned our match. I couldn't stop smiling. I was just so excited. I still couldn't believe it was real. Like, she was right there and I was like, this is literally Kylie Rae. Like, what? I feel like part of it is also you think, because it was my first match and it was a great opportunity, I feel like sometimes you doubt yourself. Like, I was more like still in shock because I didn't feel like I deserved it. Just in the sense of not everybody gets that opportunity throughout their career.
Let alone their first match.
Yeah, so I kind of felt not bad, but like, I was like, I don't want people to think I think that I'm at that level. Like, do you know what I mean? I didn't want people to think, oh yeah, I'm wrestling Kylie Rae. Like I'm at that level. Like, I can't explain what I'm trying to say, but I feel like people take something like that and be like, why does she deserve that in her first match? And I can see where that would come from someone who has been wrestling for a while. Not that this happened at all, but I feel like that's just things you think of. So that's more where my head was at, because I didn't want people to think that I wasn't grateful or knew how great of an opportunity that I was getting and like how lucky I was to have that.
And that can be overwhelming. I mean, it's not only your first match, but it's your first match with your hero. So that can be like, it's a lot to put on your shoulders for your first match. Do you recall kind of any of the feedback that you received afterwards, or like how was the reaction to it when it was all said and done?
Honestly, that day is a blur, and because there was so much going on. There was so many people from my family and friends that came out that I was saying hi to and after was seeing. And then I got to have a sleepover with Kylie Rae. I was at the airport. So it was all just like so much in one day that I feel like everything just kind of smushes together. But it was it was incredible to see how much support I have through it too. And just like all the wrestlers in the that were in the locker room, very respectful. And I was very grateful to be there with wrestlers who you can trust and who are there to support you too. So I really appreciate that aspect of all of them welcoming me into the locker room in a sense like that I deserve to be there.
It speaks volumes of your character because I've even heard some people from those locker rooms compliment you. Now, I do want to pivot a little bit to another, we'll call it milestone.
Mhm.
And it might be a little bit more of a somber one because of, the recent happenings with Crossbody. But for those who don't know, you are the Crossbody Women's Champion. Can you take me through a little bit of the reaction? Because you've had a short career, and that's not a
Yeah.
negative thing by any means. But in that time, you've had a match with your hero, but you've also been able to lift gold. Can you tell me a little bit about winning the women's championship?
Yes. I remember in the summer, I went to touch the belt and Tyler looked at me and he said, "Don't touch that. That's bad luck." And I went, and I just remember always going in and looking at it. And one day in the summer, I was like, that's going to be mine one day. Little did I know, in that same year, I would become the champion. I was very grateful to be in the ring with those three women when I won as well, because they are all people who inspire me in the ring. And I also love everybody from IWS. I love Montreal. They are amazing. So I was very happy to have them there. Yeah, it was, again, unbelievable. Like, I can't describe it. I feel like I thought I would cry more, but because it was so emotional and there's so many emotions, same with on my debut, there's just like so much happening that I can't even comprehend. Like when I won, it was kind of like, oh, like I'm champion. Like that's insane. Like I feel like just when you doubt yourself so much up until that point, you just don't believe that it's real. Because for the longest time when you believe it's not tangible, not realistic, it's hard. Like Ben and Tyler believed in me before I believed in myself. And Ben made me realize that I have a bigger potential than I thought. So I feel like having that support too helps reassure that you're not thinking too high of yourself. I don't know. I just never want to think like too high of myself. So I think I just kind of stay down here. But I feel like it just helps with my confidence and being in the ring in general.
So there is one other match I want to ask you about, and it was actually when you defended against Kylie Rae. It was actually a show that also featured Jackson Roy versus Gabriel Fuerza, and that stands out to me because, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't do the best research, but Gabriel Fuerza was in an interview not too long ago where he did mention how he saw that match between yourself and Kylie Rae, and that something like you were way better than you had any business to be this early. And it was a very, very complimentary statement, probably more so than what I was able to kind of blurt out there. But can you take me through that match and maybe even like how it feels to get a compliment from somebody like Gabriel Fuerza that is that highly praising of your capabilities?
Yeah. The match was insane. It was hard leading up to it. I think I was more nervous leading up to it because I am away in school in Thunder Bay. So I'm not training currently. So I had been away since September and I just flew home for the matches and then I'd fly back to Thunder Bay for school. So it was hard because I felt that I wasn't prepared for a match like that with someone who is that advanced compared to me. So I felt nervous more for preparedness. And then getting there, obviously, it's always the best to see her. I wasn't at the best place mentally then either. So I feel like leading up to that point, I was even harder on myself because I noticed that usually I love wrestling and anything wrestling can get me so excited, get me happy, just my escape. But I feel like in this sense, I kind of felt bad that I was feeling so upset and just had like things going on in my personal life and everything, and just like the mental health aspect of life. So I just felt very selfish in a way because I was like, but I have this great opportunity that everyone keeps messaging me about and telling me, oh, good luck, like you must be so excited. And I was just struggling so much at that point that I just felt very selfish. And then when I got there, I remember even then I feel like you just can't describe like the mental health. Like you can do anything you want, but when you are struggling, I feel that it takes more than that sometimes, and you don't realize till you're at that point. But I remember even Kylie asked me what was wrong, and then I was like, no, no, no. I'm like so excited. Like it's nothing about that, I promise. And then I felt really bad for the day because again, it's more of I felt a lot of pressure because I don't want people to think I take these things for granted because I truly don't. And I know how much of an opportunity that is, and I appreciate these so much more than like anybody will literally ever know. Just being in her presence was so validating for me and reminded me just of like who I was, I guess. It was very, I'm going to use the word calming instead of overwhelming. It was
Okay.
overwhelming, but like also it was a very good sense of comfort that I needed at that time. To be in her presence was just what I needed. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was going to be nervous because of all of this leading up to that point. And then in the ring, it just felt natural. Like even my debut and like when I won the championship, it's just like when I'm in the ring, it just flows. Like you get so nervous before and then you go in and it's just like, like you do it. And it's just like the best thing in the world. And I remember being in the match and I'm like, I'm versing Kylie Rae. I'm like, this is Kylie Rae next to me. Like I couldn't believe it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just arm dragged Kylie Rae. It was very, very emotional for me to think about that I got to debut with her. I remember I dropped her off at the airport and she was like, I hope we can do this again together one day and verse each other. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm never going to get to do that. Are you insane? I was like, you're too good. Not even a year later, here I was wrestling her. And I was like, this is literally insane. Like it just keeps going. And I don't know where these are coming from, but I'm just so happy.
Well, I was actually in the crowd that day, and I must say that the match, I think there was a little bit of unsureness because when you both came out, the crowd didn't know who to cheer for because you were kind of both playing faces.
Yeah.
And partway through, she took over as kind of like the pseudo heel, but you could like feel the crowd, and it was like this slow crescendo, and it was building up. And then when it got to the home stretch, everybody was ready to just explode. So all that being said, I'm just complimenting you. It was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Now, I do need to ask, what is next? Where do you want to see your career go next? Who do you want to see yourself wrestle? What other federations would you like to participate in?
I do have a lot, and I think about this all the time. Right now, I'm focusing on school. I'm almost finished. So that is the priority right now. As much as I would love to train while I'm here at Sick Kids for multiple weeks, I'd love to train and wrestle. And if that came up, that would be great. But school is definitely a priority because once I get wrestling in there, I know that it would take its priority. I can't really find that balance with school right now. But yeah, once I'm done and settled wherever I'm going to be and have a job, then I can start thinking more about these things. I definitely have ideas, but I feel that I need to be more sure of what I want to do. I feel like because my debut was so, honestly, it was very unexpected to me. Just because I have never thought about my debut. I was just happy going to training. I really never thought about it. So I feel that I just have to take this time to think about it because it was all at once. And then in the summer, even going to Montreal, like it was insane. I didn't even think that that would happen. So it was just crazy to think being on a plane to go to Montreal. Like it was just the craziest thing. So I feel that I didn't really have time to think about where I want to go or what the next steps are because it happened so fast. I just kind of want to focus on me. I feel like it's very easy, and I feel like it is something I've done, is put 90% into Jae-Lynn Hill and 10% into Breland. So I feel like just balancing that and figuring out how to do that is important first. Because I feel like a lot of people ask or talk about how they fell out of love with wrestling. I feel like that's very different than falling out of touch with yourself in wrestling. I feel like I would never not love wrestling, but it's more like you can get lost in your love for it so much that you kind of lose your personal self in it. And that's when it becomes a problem. So I don't want that to be the case. So that's what I'm going to kind of focus on now.
I do normally ask the very cliche question of dream opponent, but I mean, you've already done that. So I'm just going to ask, and don't hesitate. I'm sure nobody will feel left out. But who are some of the people kind of roaming around the independent scene that you would love to square up with?
Alexia Nicole. Bia Moss, Crystal Moon, one-on-one. That would be amazing. Chris Dara, amazing. Alex Gagne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, there's a lot more. It's just very hard with school right now. But those are definitely the top ones. Alexia.
Yeah. You didn't have to be realistic. I was just letting you get caught up with the fun of wrestling, right?
Yeah,
so
no, for sure.
That's why it's a hypothetical. Now, very busy schedule, school, wrestling, everything, training. Do you have any hobbies that when you get some time to step away or to find a moment to rest that you like to participate in?
Yes, I love to read. I love to puzzle. Love the gym. I know that's connected with wrestling, but I still love it. Really, because I'm just focused on school, kind of that aspect. I love to hang out with my siblings, anything with them. I don't care. They love golf. I'm not good at it. I can't really care for it, but I'll do it because they love it and I love them. I really do wish that I had rugby still. That was something I did throughout high school. Loved it. That was probably the only sport that I would be more interested in now. Yeah, that's really it.
That's perfectly fine.
One thing, I love driving and listening to music. That is probably my favorite thing. Love music. Luke Combs, the Lumineers, Fleetwood Mac.
Does it matter what the destination or just the driving for the sake of driving to give you almost like your own space to listen to music to?
Honestly, it doesn't even matter. I just love, it's like a therapy to me. I love driving and listening to music.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So the last question that I like to ask everybody is a little bit more of a surreal question, but if you could go back and talk to a younger version of yourself, younger being relative because you're still so young already and done so much in such a short time, but if you could go back and talk to a young version of yourself prior to getting into wrestling, or even just when you began, what advice would you give yourself?
Put yourself first and that you can do it. There's a lot of factors or persuasions that can alter your decisions. And especially with professional wrestling not being well known from where I'm from, it was hard for people to understand the sacrifices. I say that because I don't feel that when you love wrestling, they are like bad sacrifices. I feel that a lot of people were actually very surprised that I would drive that far for training. At my age too, I didn't ever see it that way until people put it that way. And then it kind of got me thinking, And then I took a step back and was like, wait, but you like it. So why does it matter that they're kind of asking why you would drive that far that often for that? It was kind of like a weird, that's when I kind of realized, oh, like that can really persuade you or like trick you. And I never ever looked at that as a sacrifice or like a sacrifice of my time, I guess, because it was going to somewhere that I can't make this come true if I don't do that, though. So it's not really a sacrifice. You know what I mean? It never really looked that way to me. But I feel like a lot of people got frustrated with me when I literally just worked and wrestled. So I feel that it did affect multiple relationships, and that's okay. But I feel like it didn't have to. So I feel that just putting yourself first and being confident in what you want, because it's so easy, especially when you're figuring out who you are, to get, because you're trying new things, to be like, oh, well, what do I want? But I honestly feel like I wouldn't ask people for their opinion as much in what I should do. Like, that sounds weird, but more based on like decision wise, you're the only one that knows what you want to do. So as long as you know you're confident, you know that it makes you happy, then just do it. Not everybody is going to be there for you when it doesn't benefit them.
So would it be fair to take the word sacrifices and all of the negative connotations that it holds and throw that out the window and maybe use the word dedications?
Yes.
All right. So very last thing, can you just let people know once again who you are and maybe where they can follow you on social media if they want to just keep up to date with what you got going on?
Yes, I am Jae-Lynn Hill, and my Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at J_Lynn_Hill. And yes, thank you for listening. I am the Crossbody Pro Wrestling Women's Champion, and when Crossbody makes its comeback, because it will, I'm coming back still champion, so remember that.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, so thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Please help out the show if you can with a like, subscription, or review. We'll see you next time.